Well, I got it. My first cordless framing saw. Hi, I'm Ron Paulk, designer of the Smart Woodshop and a couple of workbenches. Tools to help make your job more efficient and to go smoother and make you a better carpenter. If you want a set of these plans to build any of these for yourself, you can click on the link in the description of this video down below. And remember, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and share the channel with others if you like these videos. And by the way, I have over 750 videos up. So when you go to my channel, click into the playlist or just look at the videos and scan through them. You'll find a lot of good stuff. As I march on, updating my tools with cordless tools, I am pretty excited about framing tools. Big tools. I haven't got my Sawzall yet, but that'll be coming pretty soon. I do have a big angle drill. It was the first one I got of the big framing tools. And I really like this DeWalt system. I've chosen it for one reason only. Number one, there is a lot of good tools out there. If you like Milwaukee, Makita, they're all good tools. I chose the DeWalt for one main reason, and that is the single battery for these bigger tools. These bigger handheld tools require a bit more power, and most of the brands out there that I looked at required 2 batteries. So I liked their single battery system. This 60 volt flex volt system will adjust itself for the different tools they have that require different voltage amounts. So you don't have to have different batteries. Now there are physically different size batteries. This one is a 9 amp hour. They go up to a 12 that I know of, maybe bigger. And this one's a 6 amp hour, so they're just physically different sizes. And again, another 6 amp hour. Now, the other nice thing about these, and even the smaller 20 volt system, which works with the 60 volt system, the flex volt system as well, I can take these bigger batteries and put them on the 20 volt tools. Now it's not the same the other way around. I'm pretty sure that this 20 volt won't fit in and run this. I think they have a different pin alignment. But obviously not enough power in a little battery like this to run these bigger tools. But the charger that comes with these big tools will also charge these batteries. So I'm limiting the number of chargers I need. I have 2 chargers I've installed in the Smart Woodshop. They're identical. I just had one came with one tool and one came with another. That's all I'm going to need. So I can charge all of my flex volt and 20 volt batteries with the same chargers. So again, being more efficient, and really the number one reason that I went with DeWalt was the battery system. So I just want to make that clear. I've had that asked why I didn't choose another one. Again, I like Makita, I like Milwaukee. I just am trying to be more efficient, and I like the fact that a single battery system will cover all of my cordless tools in the DeWalt series. And these will be my woodworking heavy-duty framing tools. All right, now specifically to this worm drive. Now I said worm drive on purpose because that's what this looks like, and that's what all of the cordless tools that are trying to replicate this look like the worm drive. They've got the ergonomics of the worm drive. But this is actually a direct drive. As of this moment of making this video, it is my understanding that the only true worm drive cordless on the market is a skill saw. I haven't seen that saw in person. I've seen it online. I think it's available now. They've developed their own battery system to run that, and I bet you that is a fantastic saw. And because I have used the corded skill saw for decades of framing, I would have leaned that way, but I actually ordered this before I saw that. But again, I think because of the battery system, I don't want to introduce a third battery system. So whether that saw is better than this saw, I don't know. I'm fairly confident that this saw is going to do what I need in the cordless world of framing. I did check with a good friend of mine who's a contractor. He has been using this saw for quite some time, and he loves it. And he was also a skill saw user. So he has put it through its paces and assured me that I will be satisfied as I start to bang this around, because when I'm framing, unlike my finish tools, these things are out in the weather, they get dropped, they get banged around, and they are not treated gently. So I need them to hold up. Now specifically, a lot of nice features, may not be exclusive to this brand, but at least with DeWalt, I can show you what they have. Starting with, one of the things that I always added to my skill saws over the years before they started including them was a rafter hook. These are critical when I'm framing, when I'm up on walls, when I'm framing roofs, cutting roofs, rolling out second floor systems. I'm up above, I need to set my saw down. This is critical. So with my framing nail guns and my framing saws, I always have a hook on it. So it's nice that it's included, it's there, and it's really well made, and it will work on wider beams as well as the narrower. They've stepped it out and it folds up nice. So just right there, it's part of the saw, and that is a big deal when you're framing. The other thing, and this is back to the fact that it's designed like a worm drive ergonomically, this is critical for me because of what I'm used to doing over a couple of decades. I'm speaking maybe to right-handers, although I have had some left-hand carpenters work for me and I've never paid attention, but they've all used the same worm drives. And so maybe they just, because the whole world is mostly right-handed, maybe they just adapted. But when I'm framing, very different than when I'm using a track saw, I am working off a stack of studs or rafters or I-joists, and I hook the tape and make my mark, and then I'll grab, I've got my nail bags on, and I've always got my speed square right here. I'll pull my speed square out, and I take the saw, and I can see the blade. The blade is on the same side that I am. It's on the left side of the saw, and I put the blade right on that mark. Let's just say the mark is there. I put the blade right on that mark, and then I drop my speed square on. Even if it's a wider I-joist, the speed square is plenty big enough, and then I'll make a nice square cut. But see, I'm able to see the mark, and I can see right where the blade goes, and I leave the mark or go right to the mark. If I'm using a sidewinder where the blade is on the right, not only do I have to look over the saw to see the blade, I have to see the inside of the blade where the mark is. And so it's very cumbersome, and when you're cutting hundreds and hundreds of cuts, that can add a lot of time to your day and make you a lot less efficient. And I am really about efficiency. So being blade left and the mark being to the outside of the blade, that sets up for quick and easy cuts. It is so important that if they made a right-handed saw sidewinder and it was free, I would still pay for this one because I would make my money back just in time savings. Also, with your hand behind the saw, maybe it's just me, maybe it's just the experience, but when I'm doing long cuts, like when I'm cutting sheeting on a roof, or cutting out a valley, or dropping off floor sheeting off the edge when I've snapped lines, I can make a much straighter cut with my hand behind the saw and pushing through, as opposed to a typical sidewinder where my hand is up above. It might be because the pivot point is there, maybe it's easier to get off, but just something about having my hand down low and behind here, and I can follow a line. It seems to work for framers now, and maybe this is just a West Coast thing, but I just don't know of any framers. My big production crews that I've worked with, when I've had lots of jobs going on and I've had on my jobs as many as 20, 30 framers going at the same time. I have not one time seen a framer use a sidewinder on the West Coast, or at least in the Northwest. So again, it could be just my experience, what we're used to. I know on the East Coast there tends to be more of the sidewinders used. And again, I'll just point out, so this is a bad example because this is a track saw, and when I'm doing finishing cabinetry, this is really the way it needs to be with the blade on the right, but I'm also setting it on the track. The track is going on its mark, and I'm not really concerned about where the blade is because the track is setting that up. And so when I'm cutting off, cutting plywood or breaking plywood down for cabinetry, I'm wanting to go to the mark just to the outside and save the piece. So I don't know, it's just for finishing cabinetry, it absolutely has to be a sidewinder blade right. For framing, it absolutely has to be a left blade with the handle behind. All right, back to the saw specifically. That was generic. It wouldn't matter if it was DeWalt, Skill, Makita, any brand. That's the design of the saw, or the traditional worm drive style saw. In addition to being a single battery, having the rafter hook, other typical things, but they're just done really well. Changing the depth. It's got really nice hardware. It's well designed. You can tell that the quality of everything, it moves smoothly. It's marked really well, and it's not just painted on, it's grooved in so I can see right on the depth of my cut. So if I'm setting it up for typical 1.5 inches, I'd go a little bit deeper, and then it just locks on. So that moves really smoothly. The blade guard, important, that's for your safety. It works very smoothly, and they've got the hook to push it up. And then when you want to cut angles, again with the detents, it actually will drop in at 22.5, which is pretty common, pretty typical, and at 45. And then if you've got to do a really steep cut, this one will go all the way down to 53 on the angle of the cut, and you can still pull up this is when you really need to pull this up, is when you're cutting it over, on a bevel cut. So again, those are not maybe necessarily specific to DeWalt. The other saws may do that just as well, but they do a very good job of that. And then another thing that I really like, and this I haven't had on any of my other saws, and that is changing the blade. Notice the battery is not in right now. The wrench for doing it is on board, and it's stored right out of your way. It'll never get in your way, but it's always there when you need it. So to change the blade after the battery is removed, to pop the tool, so they've provided a built-in lock, which is, they've put it ergonomically in the right place. You just grab the handle, you put your thumb on it, and you push it down, and just with your wrench, you just spin the nut on the blade until it finds the point, and then you'll feel that where you can push it all the way in. And then clearly marked, which we need to turn it, which is in reverse for your typical. So I want to loosen it. I want to come back clockwise. And then the blade, typical diamond cut blade. And then drop it back on. Ready to cut. So there you have it, a quick introduction to my new and first cordless framing saw. Well, if you like these tool videos and you want to see the rest of the cordless tools I start to add to my quiver, be sure to subscribe, ring the bell, because that's the only way you can know when I drop a new video. Thanks for dropping into the Smart Wood Shop. Have a great day.